What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? I am the Fit Nerd, and today I have my friend Donny, Tyler, with me. And today we're doing a video response to Cinemassacre's underrated action films. We're going to do 5 apiece. He's going to do 5, and then I'm going to do a separate video of 5.
For the first one I'll start with is My Lucky Stars, which is a Jackie Chan movie, but Jackie Chan's not the star of it. Yeah. It's the people he works with. So it's you know the one guy's name.
Sammo Hung.
Sammo Hung. I'm sure
Legend.
Yeah, he's actually really good. Like,
yeah.
Like you see him and he doesn't look like he's built for fighting. But
yeah, he's like a heavy set guy.
Just from the stunts, I could tell like he's one of the best. Like,
yeah, but he's like an actual acrobat martial artist. He is the real deal.
And him and his friends pretty much they get together to help Jackie Chan with something, but most of the movie's focused on them.
Yeah.
But I think that's why people will overlook it. But it's funny. It's a comedy. It's not as serious as some of the other Jackie Chan movies, but it's a lot of fun and a lot of action and stuff. The second one is a Game of Death. Yeah, and I would actually say most people like they look at Game of Death and it's like, oh, he's not really in it. The movie kind of makes a mockery of his death. Yeah. Which it does, and yeah. I think that's terrible. They show real
funeral footage.
Yes, of Bruce Lee being buried and all that, and it's horrible. But at the same time, like, it's kind of an interesting movie because it's not just fighting. Basically, you could explain the movie probably better than I could, but there's a lot of nothing, and at the end there's some awesome action.
Yeah, like, it's all just basically one big build-up to that final action scene. And it's debatable. It's dependent on the viewer. It's debatable to them whether or not the wait is worth it because all the stuff before the action is kind of dumb.
Oh, yeah.
It's not the best paced movie. Obviously not. It's why it's not recognized as one of Bruce Lee's best movies.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if he had time to finish it, if he was allowed to finish it, but unfortunately he couldn't for obvious reasons, it probably could have been his best film. But since he passed away before that, all we had was that final fight scene. And you can tell this is when... That final fight scene, why it's so underrated is because... I don't want to speak for you here, but
you can...
Why I believe it's so underrated is because you're seeing his craft be perfected throughout all of his films. I mean, Way of the Dragon is actually my favorite one because it's also kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's like a precursor to the Jackie Chan formula. And you saw him just building up to it. With Game of Death, you can tell he learned how to choreograph much better. He can learn how to direct.
Yeah, he was director of that one.
Yeah. You can tell this is Bruce Lee's vision with these action scenes. And since...
The costume design's iconic, too. It's very visually interesting. Yeah, and the idea of going up the different levels and fighting a different person is a great concept for a movie.
It's basically... That final action scene's basically the best fighting game movie we ever got. And it was released before any popular fighting game ever existed.
Pretty much, yeah. But one thing that's interesting, though, and I think one of the problems with the movie is... I mean, Bruce Lee movies are somewhat rooted in Chinese tradition on some level. Yeah. Like the whole, that scene where it goes up the different floors of the building, there's something kind of traditional about it. Yeah. Where I think the problem is that everything up until that point is thematically so different than that. It's all very modern filmmaking. Yeah. It's about cars and technology and guns. And I don't feel like if Bruce Lee had finished the movie, that's the direction you would have went in. I feel like it would be more rooted in tradition. Yeah. Because that's sort of the theme you tend to see in a lot of Bruce Lee movies. But the thing I do like about it, because I'd say it's an underrated movie, is that build-up to that scene. There's sort of this chill atmosphere. Yeah. We know we're going to get to this big fight at the end.
A modern movie I would actually compare it to is the new Power Rangers film.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas the entirety of Power Rangers is just you're hanging out with these characters, and then you get the final fight scene of the film.
Yeah.
So Game of Death is actually far more influential than people get credit for too. That's another reason why it's underrated.
The yellow outfit.
Yeah, the yellow outfit itself is an iconic.
I'm weird with movies. For me, if one part of the movie can be great, I'll forgive a lot of crap. Yeah. And that's the only reason for me why Game of Death. Yeah. Why I can call it underrated in any way. But yeah, I'll move on to my third one, which is To Live and Die in L.A. I don't like a lot of cop movies or cop shows because to me, I'm more interested in the characters and the flaws of the characters. And To Live and Die in L.A. is more about the grittiness and the realism of the day-to-day lives of a cop. Yeah. And how, sometimes there's a thin line between being a criminal and being... sort of like Training Day with Denzel Washington. Yeah. Where he... the thin line between being a cop and being a cop who's really a thug.
Yeah.
And it's a really great movie with those themes. Willem Dafoe's in it. Most people overlook it. It's my favorite cop movie I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. It's imagine Miami Vice, but a movie version of that.
Okay.
And it has, in my opinion, like the best car chase scene I've ever seen in any movie. Mm. Yeah, very underrated.
Better than Death Proof?
Yeah. Death Proof, you expect it.
Yeah.
Where this car chase scene kind of comes out of nowhere.
So it feels more earned.
It feels more okay. Earned, and yeah. Next one's Master of the Flying Guillotine.
Yeah.
It's actually there's music in it that's actually in the Kill Bill soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
Where it sounds like they slowed down some kind of like rock song or something, and it sounds real low and kind of lo-fi.
Yeah.
And it's a great movie. It's completely ridiculous, but that's what makes it fun. Mm-hmm. It's one of those movies where it's kind of like Mortal Kombat, like the Mortal Kombat movie, where it's like a fighting competition.
Oh yeah.
And it gets interrupted because this the Master of Flying Guillotine, one of his students got killed by the one-armed swordsman, mm-hmm. and he's a blind martial artist who has this thing that cuts people's heads off. Like he throws a thing, it goes over your head, and then he pulls it off. He has a chain on it. It pulls off, and your head just pops off. And he goes around just killing anyone who has one arm, even innocent people that have nothing to do with anything.
That's incredible. So
it's great. It's so weird, and it's a ball of fun.
Oh, good.
The Wild Bunch. You probably know more about this one than I do.
Yeah, he was actually struggling for number 5, and he just randomly brought up Wild Bunch. This is actually my favorite Western of all time.
Okay.
So yes, I do know a lot about it. You can argue whether or not it's an action movie. I'll consider it an action movie because it does have action scenes throughout. Mm-hmm. It is definitely a drama and a thriller, but really the big payoff is that final shootout.
Oh yeah.
There's the movie is violent throughout it. That's kind of what made it. And I don't mean to talk for you here.
No, it's fine.
But what made it so different from other westerns at the time, where westerns were allowed to be more violent. But this one, amped it to the next level. This was a mainstream movie that, had violence to, the extreme.
It's also an anti-hero movie, right?
Yeah, because these aren't good guys. The Wild Bunch aren't good guys. They're criminals.
Mm-hmm. It's sort of like the Dollar Trilogy, like that. Yeah. It's like anti-heroes.
And all the characters in it are likable, too. Mm-hmm. You feel connected to these characters. And then, spoilers, when they all die at the end, it's heartbreaking.
Oh, yeah. And that's what I like about it, is it's more of a tragedy, really.
Yeah.
But the big thing is, it's one of the best shootout scenes. It's very well choreographed, insane amount of bullets, but
lots of blood.
The whole movie is kind of this cat and mouse game between the sheriff and the criminals.
Yeah.
And by the end of the movie, I think they get into trouble with some other people and they end up getting shot up at the end.
Yeah.
And the sheriff finally finds their dead bodies, mm-hmm. and that whole ending where he's he was out to kill them, I guess, but then someone else did it for him, and he kind of feels bad, he had a connection with them.
Yeah,
it's great in that way. It's more about the characters than the cowboy stuff, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So for my 5 underrated action films, like I said, these aren't in any order. They kind of are in an indirect way, where some of them, the first couple were released theatrically, wide theatrically. But they flopped at the box office, or people really didn't like them. Mm-hmm. The third one is one people know, but they don't know they know.
Yeah.
And then the last 2 no one's ever heard of. So anyways, the first one is the Thomas Jane Punisher. This is actually one of my favorite movies ever.
I can hold it for you.
Legitimately, that's one of my favorite movies ever. I'm not even kidding. I just think it's a great action film, because we saw Punisher Warzone years ago.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And we didn't like it. I wound up liking it, but it took me 4 watches to actually wind up kind of enjoying it. Mm-hmm. And that was just because I needed something to fill in the time before John Wick came out.
Yeah.
And I think this one was better paced. I thought it was way better acted. The violence was more brutal and less goofy than in Warzone. I even like this more than the one they have on Netflix, the new Netflix show. Because that was they turned that into a political thriller. I don't want the Punisher to be involved in a political thriller. It's just
he's about getting punishment.
Yeah, he's about punishing the bad guys. Just put him in a van, have him murder a bunch of people. And that's really what this was. He was getting vengeance for the people that killed his family. That's all I want. The guy who plays the Punisher now is fantastic, but they put him in the wrong Punisher show.
Oh, yeah.
He's probably the best performance of the Punisher I've ever seen. But if he was in this version, it'd be perfect. But so far, this is still the best version. Like I said, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. Next on my list is Dredd.
I thought the world this movie sets up is really interesting.
Yeah.
It kind of told a small story in a larger world.
It was a perfect world-building movie where you just have this small sub-story and a much grander story. And unfortunately, since this movie bombed at the box office, it didn't even break 10 million, I don't think. We never got a sequel. They're doing a series called Mega City 1, apparently, and they're bringing him back. So, I don't know if that's true or not. That's just a rumor.
Sylvester Stallone should have made a cameo.
That would have been funny. I only recently started reading Dredd comics. I didn't start reading Dredd comics till after this came out. I just said this was an awesome movie, and I actually enjoy the first Judge Dredd. Guilty pleasure.
Yeah, it's a guilty pleasure.
But this one is a much better movie. And where the first one's kind of a dumb blockbuster, this one took itself more seriously, and I really don't know why it bombed, because it had everything going for it. And maybe just Dredd's just not enough of a popular name in the United States.
It got good reviews, yeah.
Yeah, it got great reviews when it came out. It's violent, it's action-packed, it's really well-paced. It's slower-paced, but well-paced. I think everything pays off in it very well. Next on my list is the movie that people know exists, but they don't know exists. You'll see what I mean in a moment. Inglorious Basterds, the 70s movie.
Yeah. You can keep talking.
This movie is... I enjoy this one more than the Quentin Tarantino one, because this one is literally the Inglorious Basterds, I think, what people were expecting the new one to be. It's not a remake at all. It's not the same movie.
Not at all. Yeah,
no, it's
a very
not.
different movie.
It's the same name, different plots. Whereas the new one's about Nazi hunters, this one's similar to the Wild Bunch, how these are anti-heroes, and they're just kind of caught up in World War II.
Yeah.
And they all die at the end. Spoiler.
You keep ruining all these movies. They're going to remain underrated.
Yeah. But yeah, this one has more action in it. It has good characters. They're all
likable. Yeah,
they're all likable. They're so actually, I see them as they're so unlikable that they're likable. It's like it like balances itself out.
It's kind of like it's like a fun movie.
Yeah, it's just a fun, entertaining movie. It's goofy, but not in like too goofy of a way. You're just entertained by it. Whereas the Tarantino movie was definitely trying to be more of a drama, which is fine. But I don't know how you advertise that properly. I think that was the problem he had with it, because there's no way you can properly advertise the movie that actually was in his Inglorious Basterds. Where if you want more of the action World War II movie, this is the Inglorious Basterds you want to check out. Inglorious Basterds, this is actually easy to find, the Blu-ray of it, and so is the DVD. So if you can find it, check it out. Next on my list is, now we're getting to ones that
no one's heard of, I guess.
Yeah, no one's heard of this one. It's called The Deadlands. I basically see this as a spiritual prequel to The Raid. It's a martial arts movie, but it's not martial arts hand-to-hand. It's weapons martial arts, which is cool, because you really don't see that too often. And when you do, it's like Jackie Chan style, where he uses like a crutch or just something in the background. This is like bladed weapons, which is cool to see. It's very brutal, very bloody. And that's why I see it as kind of a spiritual prequel to The Raid, where it's that brutal type of violence in a very prehistoric setting. You get a ton of great action, a ton, like, good acting, too. And these are all foreign actors, so you do have to read subtitles. And overall, it's fast-paced, too. So it's not like you're wasting a lot of time, just like you get one action scene, then another action scene, then another action scene. You feel like every fight scene is earned, and the plot's pretty cool, too. It's kind of generic, but it works. This is one, it's a Shaw Brothers, I can't believe I almost said Shaw. Shaw Brothers movie. It's called The Deadly Duo. And another reason why I like this one is that, similar to The Deadlands, it's a weapons-based martial art movie. This is old school.
Yeah.
From that time period, like one-armed swordsman.
All that stuff,
yeah. And to see this come out then, and like, what makes it work really well is this is violent. It's really violent. Like, they use bladed weapons, and they show what bladed weapons could do. And that's what makes it work. It has plenty of action, and the characters in this are great too. Again, it's a simple plot, but simple plot where it makes each action scene feel earned. And it's called The Deadly Duo, but there's more than just two of them in this movie. The Deadly Duo are just the two experts in the film. And overall, the fight choreography is really great, and it has kind of a downer ending also, which I like. I really like movies that have downer endings, but you still kind of feel pumped after them. Mm-hmm. It's like more bittersweet.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And really, I think of all like the martial arts movies, I think this one may be like the most underrated. No one talks about this film when we talk about classic martial arts films, and this one needs to go down as an important classic because it is. This one needs to get a little bit more props than what it gets because, like I said, no one ever talked about it. The only reason I know about it is because I was at a used DVD store, and this just happened to be there for $2, and I was like, let's check that out. And I was not disappointed. I loved it. It was highly entertaining.
Yeah, I recommend it.
Yeah, even though he's never seen it.
Yeah.
Some honorable mentions: The Rundown with The Rock. I was actually going to include that originally, but The Rock's so popular now.
Yeah, people know about it. That was one of his earlier ones, too. Yeah, that's...
And, like, I think it might be his most underrated out of all the ones he's done. Because that was, like... Yeah, I have a skeleton. But he's so popular now, I couldn't really add it in because it's The Rock.
Yeah, everyone knows him now, yeah.
People are going to see that movie. I was then going to also add Walking Tall, but I was like, oh, yeah, that's also The Rock. What other ones? Doomsday.
I was going to include, I think I already said this, One-Armed Swordsman.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
So anyways, those are our 5 underrated action films. We might do another one in the future, like underrated horror films.
High five.
Underrated horror films sometimes in the future, but we'll see how it goes. Anyways, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And remember my 4 rules. Shut up, Tyler, before you say anything. Love your friends, love your family, praise the Lord, and keep your weights as heavy as your metal. Peace.